Well, we've got Casey Bell here with us now. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, you've got a new book out at the moment called Four Keys to Success. So, for anyone that might not know, can you just describe the basic idea of that book, first of all?
So the idea of the book, Four Keys to Success, basically success in anything in life, finances, relationships, your health, is to first figure out that the first thing we need to figure out is your identity because a lot of people misidentify themselves. We have a epidemic of everyone trying to be like everyone else and forcing everyone to be like everyone else. And the moment we see something different, we criticize it instead of realize we are supposed to be different, like our fingerprints are. So the first step to success is to first identify yourself and find out who you originally were. From the time we were born till about 6 or 7 years of age, we are the real us. And then after that, through school, maybe church, or through our homes, people begin to mold us into who they want us to be or who they think we are.
Mm.
And we become that misidentified person. And then we start living our lives as someone we're not understanding why we're not successful. It's because we're not living as our true selves. And so the main purpose of the book is to help you find who you truly originally were and to get yourself back into being who you are.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. So, who would you say actually needs the book? What type of person?
Definitely, if you're someone who criticizes a lot, if you're on social media arguing with people, if you're canceling, you're part of the cancel um, people who are canceling.
Mm.
If you see something different and you immediately call it weird or odd or that's wrong, you definitely need this book because we were not created to be the same. We were not created. The earth was not created for one person's likes or dislikes.
Yeah.
So if you're someone who immediately criticize something that's different from what you're used to seeing, you definitely need this book to understand that everything you see that's different is not actually wrong. It's just different.
Yeah. And the book discusses the crab in the barrel mentality. What's the difference between that and the crab mentality?
So if you know anything about the crab in a barrel, when they catch crabs or even lobsters for restaurants and they throw them all in a barrel, some of them tried to exit the barrel for freedom. And when they just about to get out of the barrel, a crab or a lobster will grab them down.
Mm.
And usually, no crab can get out of the barrel because other crabs are grabbing them down. And the first thing people say is when you criticize people or you tear people down when they're out doing a new venture, the first thing they say, oh, you're just like the crab in the barrel.
Yeah.
But one of the things we forget, something I saw on Instagram, is that a crab's true nature is not to be in a barrel. It's to be by waters. So lakes, oceans, and seas is their natural habitat. And that's where they belong. And if you know anything about lakes, oceans, and seas and things of waters, they're limitless. There is no limit for a crab or a lobster. They can travel near and far wherever they please. And the job of shellfish is actually not to be eaten, but to clean the waters. And so whether there's dead bodies, whether it's feces, their job is to clean the waters and keep it clean for animals. And anytime a crab that's living freely as it should comes across a body it can't consume by itself, it makes sounds to communicate to other crabs to come help it out so that they can complete this project, because anything that's dead that's not consumed in enough time will start to rot and cause bacteria and cause death. So they know they have a limited amount of time to finish that project.
Yeah.
And so a natural crab's job is to come together for a project, whereas when it's not in its natural state in a barrel, it's to bring people down. And so as humans, if we are free and living as we should, then we won't spend so much time tearing each other down and criticizing each other.
Yeah. And a lot of the time when we're growing up, we keep being asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Why do you think that isn't a very wise question then?
Yes. So if you think about it, what do you want to be when you grow up is not a wise question because no one knows the future.
Mm.
And so today, well, let's take it back some. If you know anything about CDs, there are these discs that play music.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to be someone who fixed CDs 10, 20 years ago, that would have been a great idea. But today, it's not necessarily something necessary. In fact, they don't even make cars with CD players anymore.
Wow.
So now you don't necessarily have a job.
Yeah.
But if you focus on what you can do today, who can you help today? That's a better question, because today people are listening to iPods and listening to music on their cell phones. So instead of being someone who wants to fix CDs, today you're going to be someone who needs to fix smartphones and iPods and things of that nature. So your focus shouldn't be what do you want to be when you grow up. Your focus should be who needs you today? What can you serve? Who can you serve today?
Yeah, and I suppose that question was always just annoying to me as well, because it felt like from a very early age they kept asking that and told us that we had to know exactly what we wanted to do when we grew up, and I just didn't have any idea yet, and you can't predict the future. We might be doing many things, I suppose.
Exactly. It's not really a question we should ask, because you don't, like today, there are hundreds of businesses making money off of masks, but
Yeah.
20 years ago they weren't. And so there was no way of knowing that that's what you would be doing when you grew up, because no one knew the pandemic was on its way.
Yeah.
So it's really not a question you should ask, and it's not a question you can answer, because no one knows the future. No one knows what new technology or new inventions or new ideas are going to come to the fact that you'll change what you want to be. 30 years ago, no one was working on making apps because they didn't exist. But today they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And there will be so much stuff that won't exist in the future too. Stuff that we won't even expect to not have anymore, maybe.
Exactly. That's the way it is. I mean, by the time something goes out of style, you're like, oh my goodness, really? And then something new comes along, and you got to flow with what the change to be successful.
So what is something that the listener can do today to start their journey to success?
So the first thing you can do is, if you can, as far as you can go back and remember what was something you did as a child between the ages 5 and 9 that you really enjoyed, that you got a lot of enjoyment out, but you stopped for a certain reason. Perfect example is, ever since I was a child, I was always writing. I always wrote, whether it was poems, songs. Sometimes I would write commercials and perform them. I would write TV shows and perform them. So I was always writing. But in school, I didn't do well in English, so I made the assumption I was not supposed to be a writer.
Yeah.
So I gave up. Even though I was always writing, I didn't think I was going to be a writer, because of what school told me indirectly, that I wasn't good enough to be a writer. And so whatever that thing was that you did, but you stopped, whether your parents said, oh, get a real job, don't do that, or for whatever reason, you didn't think you were adequate enough, that's what you're supposed to be doing. But what we forget is, because we start our gift as a child, we forget, we may not be good enough as a child, but as you grow up, things change. And so maybe you may say, well, I'm not, 20 years ago, I didn't think I was going to be a writer because I'm not good at writing books. But today we have ebooks, and we have all these websites where you can just share a short story and make money off of it. And so because you don't know the future, you really don't know what you can actually do according to the gifts you have as a child, because the jobs that are available when you're a child may change when you become an adult. So just go back to your childhood and figure out the things you really enjoyed doing, and you did it well and you had fun doing it, but you stopped because of whatever reason. That's your key to success. And then once you remember what it is, use that talent to help people today. Not so much, don't think about how much money can I make, is who needs this talent for their help. So whether it's their health, whether it's, they need help with whatever the case may be, find out how you can help people with that talent. And of course, remember, success does not happen overnight. Learn, read your books for education. And then, as you did when you were a child, when you were learning how to ride a bike, falling off didn't stop you. Yeah. So just because you failed, don't let that stop you. That's a lesson learned. You found out what doesn't work, make whatever apologies necessary, and then move forward. But those are basically the first step, is remember what you did that made you happy, use that to help someone else, and then just go out there and learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, where are we able to find the book everywhere if we'd like to have a little read of it then?
Sure. So authorcaseybell.com. And then if you want, you can find it on Amazon, as well as Barnes & Noble's website.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us here on the show today. It's been great having you on.
Thank you. Thank you so much.